Now we'll cover the basics of pediatrics. Let's start with growth and development, which is defined as a dynamic, ongoing process consisting of the sum of the many psychological and psycho-emotional changes that take place throughout the lifespan. The most rapid period of growth and development is seen during early childhood. While each child develops at his own unique pace, with periods of spurts and lulls, all children progress through an identifiable sequence of physical, cognitive, and emotional growth and change. The entire process includes several key components. Growth refers to an increase in the number and size of cells, resulting in increased body size and weight. Development refers to gradual advancement in the skills needed to function. Maturation indicates an increase in competence and ability, making it possible to function at a higher level. Differentiation is the process by which early cells and structures are modified to achieve a specific structure that makes it possible to carry out a specific function. These ongoing processes are interrelated and interdependent and have specific genetic, endocrine, environmental, constitutional, and nutritional influences. While the child's physical body becomes larger and more complex, the child's personality is likewise developing in scope and complexity. In a nutshell, growth is about quantitative changes, or size, while development is about qualitative changes, or functional abilities. It's important to remember that growth and development are continuous processes that require both physical and psychological energy. The lulls and spurts that occur are related to the differing needs and requirements at various ages. Physical growth is very fast during infancy and then levels off to a more gradual and steady rate during early childhood, up until puberty. Puberty brings another sudden spurt in growth as well as developmental maturation. Moving on to height, a full-term newborn's length averages about 20 inches, increasing by about 10 inches during the first 12 months of life. This slows down after that first year to about 5 inches in the second year, then to about 3 inches per year for the preschooler. Between the ages of 6 and 10, children grow about 2 inches per year. The most growth in height is seen during puberty. Girls typically experience a peak increase in height at age 13, about a year before boys do. The girls' growth spurt happens earlier, but for boys, the growth spurt lasts a longer time. Boys' growth in height usually stops around age 18 to 20. Now for weight. Most full-term newborns weigh between 5 and 9 pounds at birth. Birth weight doubles in the first 4 to 7 months, with an average weekly weight gain of 5 to 7 ounces. By the time the baby is 1 year old, the birth weight is tripled. Toddlers, preschoolers, and school-aged children all gain about 4.5 to 6.5 pounds each year. With the growth spurt at puberty comes a period of rapid weight gain, in all an average of 38 pounds for girls and 52 pounds for boys. Bone development is totally completed by the early 20s, when the epiphyses and diaphyses of the long bones are fused. Tooth formation is already in progress at birth. In fact, tooth buds appear at 11th week of fetal development. The permanent teeth are developing as well. At about 6 months of age, teething begins when the lower central incisors erupt. The typical pattern is the 2 upper central incisors appear next, although this can vary. Many children will have 6 teeth by age 1 and all 20 primary teeth by the time they are 2.
Motor development moves in a head-to-toe or cephalocaudal pattern. For example, babies are first able to control their eyes to track an object, then later can move the head from side to side. They have control over the head before getting control of the trunk or the extremities. They can sit upright before standing and have control over their hands before they have control of their feet. In addition, motor development progresses in a proximodistal pattern, that is, from the center of the body, out to the extremities. Here are 2 important terms to remember. Prehension, this is the ability to pick up an object using the fingers and thumb in a pincer grasp, and locomotion, the ability to walk upright without support.
Growth dimensions that we measure include weight, height or length, and head circumference. These measurements are tracked over a time and plotted on standardized growth charts to determine the normal pattern for an individual child and to compare the child's progress with standardized norms. That brings us to hospitalization. When a child has to be hospitalized, every member of the family is affected. Likewise, family support plays an important role in how the child copes with illness, injury, and separation from the family. Other factors include the child's age and emotional status, cultural or ethnic influences, previous experiences, the extent of the illness or injury, the child's preparation for the experience, and the support of healthcare professionals. Make sure you are familiar with the rights of the hospitalized child, and remember the emotional impact of this experience can be long-lasting, so it's important to provide care focused on the child's individual needs, taking into consideration the child's age, knowledge base, and developmental level. The major stressors for the hospitalized child are separation, loss of control, and fear of bodily injury and pain. Separation anxiety is at its greatest for infants and toddlers beginning at about 6 months of age. It reaches its peak in the toddler stage, but preschoolers may feel this anxiety too. The first stage of separation anxiety is the protest stage. We're talking about very strong and even violent reactions to separation, kicking, and prolonged crying and screaming. Basically, a child who is completely inconsolable. This behavior is actually a good sign, as it indicates a strong attachment relationship between the child and the parents. The second stage is the despair stage. The child becomes withdrawn and non-responsive, and when the parents reappear, the child returns to the protest behaviors. The third stage, detachment, is rare, and it is a negative sign. Paradoxically, this is a child who seems unaffected by the presence or absence of the parents, rather goes on playing with toys or other children as though nothing has happened. Caregivers may interpret it as the child adapting to hospitalization, but it is actually maladaptive behavior. School-aged children are able to cope much better with separation from the family, but this is still a major stressor. For adolescents, the issue may be more about separation from peers and the fear that they will lose peer acceptance. Loss of control, while not an issue for infants, certainly affects toddlers. Toddlers feel insecure about variations from the known routine and may respond with temper tantrums. Preschoolers also like the security of routines and rituals. The school-aged child is working toward achieving a sense of industry versus inferiority, and are concerned about losing peer acceptance and about permanent injury or disability or even death. Adolescents are developing a sense of identity and their eventual role as an adult, and resent any loss of autonomy. They are often uncooperative, become withdrawn and angry, and isolate themselves from friends until they can compete again. Fear of bodily injury is a common concern of all children after early infancy. Preschoolers and school-aged children may think of pain as punishment for wrongdoing, while adolescents fear losing control during a painful experience. Overall, preparing children for painful procedures with explanations and demonstrations appropriate for their developmental level will reduce their fear. What about children's vital signs? Just like for adults, the measurement of vital signs, an important component of assessment, includes a heart rate, respiratory rate, blood pressure, and body temperature. But you have to remember that the normal parameters for children will vary according to size and age. Other factors that can affect measurement of vital signs in children include emotional state, overall physical condition, the equipment used, how it is used, movement, and any underlying disorders.